Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth ever Highlight Haven interview. My name is Matthew Heiserman, and today we are joined by a very special guest. He is an ESPN senior NFL insider. Let me welcome Adam Schefter to the show. It's great to have you on.
Hello, Matthew. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing terrific.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Football is back tonight. How are you feeling?
Uh, it's always a interesting, exciting time of the year. I guess I would say this to you, Matthew. What do you feel like when you're about to go start school in the new school year? You're probably excited, a little nervous, a little anxious, a little bit of everything, right? And I would say that the start of the football season is a lot like the start of school for you and all your friends. That's kind of what it's like.
hmm That's a great way of putting it. So, almost a week ago, Jordan Love signed a 4-year, $220 million contract, which makes him the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. Do you think that the Packers overpaid, saying Jordan Love has only had one good year as a starter?
That's the going rate, Matthew. And I've always learned that if somebody's willing to spend something on a particular player, then he's worth it. I once asked somebody if somebody was worth the contract that he had gotten, and they said if a team is willing to give you that contract, you're worth it. And Jordan Love has demonstrated great ability. He has shown a lot of potential. The quarterback market, the prices on them have gone up, and so the Packers are betting that they found their guy and that he's going to be worth it. And I think he will be worth it.
Mhm. Now, it was a similar situation to me when Trevor Lawrence got signed earlier this offseason because I don't think he was necessarily worth what he got paid, but it's either you overpay for him or you lose him. And that's kind of the situation that it is with every quarterback. So it can definitely be tough for some teams.
Well, the market is the market, and we know what top quarterbacks are being paid. And whether you agree with it or not, Trevor Lawrence was the number one overall pick. He has gotten that team to the playoffs. He is their quarterback. They are building around him. Who's the quarterback if it's not him? They don't really have a solution. Mac Jones is on the roster, but they want to build around Trevor Lawrence, and they plan to, and that's why they gave him the contract that they did.
Yeah. And kind of to build off of that, of course, when you look at quarterbacks in the NFL, that AFC is definitely overpowered when it comes to quarterback talent. Would you say Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the NFC? If not, who is?
Well, that'll play itself out over the course of the season. These things
Mhm.
are cyclical and they change all the time. So it doesn't matter really who I say is the best quarterback
Mhm.
today because somebody will get out to a great start. Somebody will heat up as the season goes on. Somebody will emerge this year that we weren't expecting. Somebody will regress that we weren't expecting. I don't really get too much into who's the best quarterback. Jordan Love, I can safely say, I believe is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC. I think he's got a chance to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The Packers paid him like that, and we'll see how the season goes before we make any declarations about who's the best and who's the worst.
Yeah, I mean, right now I would consider that area to be him, maybe Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, all in that conversation. And I think I'm expecting big things from him this year, of course, going into his second year as a starter, but we'll see how he compares to the rest of them.
Well, let's see how the season plays out, and then we can make declarations about who's the best and who's not.
hmm Of course. So, when talking about contracts, as I mentioned, Jordan Love got paid, Trevor Lawrence got paid, Tua Tagovailoa got paid all this offseason, and just this morning, Tristan Wirfs became the highest paid NFL offensive lineman of all time. So, of course, recently contracts are getting to be more and more expensive, and you kind of touched on this earlier about how much a team is willing to pay a guy, but at some point, do you see it becoming too much where teams are paying their quarterbacks upwards of 60 to 70 million dollars per year?
Matthew, you're very worried about the prices that these guys are being paid, aren't you?
I mean, it is getting a little excessive at this point.
Well, again, you have to understand the money in the sport is growing every single year. There's
Mhm.
more and more gambling revenue. There's more and more advertising revenue. There's more and more media rights revenue. So the players get 50% of that money. So when the money is going up in the sport every year, half that money is going to the players. So somebody has to get paid. The quarterbacks are the most important players I believe, in all of sports, not just football, but in all of
Mhm.
sports. So they're going to get their lion's share of money. Tristan Wirfs plays a position, left tackle, that is designed to protect the quarterback's blind side, to make sure he's got the time that he needs to throw the football. And with quarterbacks being as important as they are, it's up to Tristan Wirfs to protect them. So it's imperative, if you've got a great left tackle, to pay him too. And your best players are always going to get paid. That's just the way the sport is. But Matthew, you don't have to worry about the money these guys are making. The teams are making the decisions. You should be focusing on other things.
Mhm. Yeah, and one of those other things that I wanted to address, especially this season in training camp, we've seen so many players holding out for contract related reasons. Some of those names include CD Lamb, Trent Williams, Hassan Reddick, etc. How do you think these players holding out affects the league as a whole?
It's part of business, Matthew. Again, if you
Mhm.
have leverage and you're a player and there's more money coming in, you have to do what you can to make the most you can.
Mhm.
All these players in the end, most of them are going to get paid, and they know that they're worth paid. So it's just part of the unpleasant business. I know you don't like it. I know fans don't like it, but that's sometimes what a player has to do. And when there's this much money at stake, uh, a player like CD Lamb can't afford to be in training camp, because if he hurts himself, suffers a big injury, like there was a Browns running back, Deontay Foreman, who was carted off today. What if it's one of these guys who's in line for $100 million contract, and they're out there and
Mhm.
they get hurt and they can't play anymore? They just risked all that money. So if you have leverage and you're a player and you're about to get paid, you have to do what you can to make sure that you are securing your future.
And do you expect all of these players holding out to eventually agree on a contract and start playing before the regular season begins?
Eventually, like, who's holding out right now? We've got CD Lamb's not in camp, Hassan Reddick's not in camp. Um,
Mhm. And then you also have a
uh,
few players
Jason,
holding. And then I was
yeah,
going to say you also have a
Brand,
few players holding in, like Brandon Ayuk. I think Jamar Chase hasn't
yeah.
been playing recently.
I would venture to tell you, Matthew, that the majority of these players, if not all of them, will be paid by the time the regular season begins.
Mhm. Yeah, so you made a post about this on X yesterday, stating that the NFL is close to replacing the chain game with new technology to measure the line to gain. Of course, this would be a pretty big change in the NFL. What is your opinion on the matter?
I think the NFL is trying to get with the times. The chain gang is very old and antiquated, and if the NFL has technology that can spot the football in a more effective manner, then it's time to start doing that. The NFL is moving into the 21st century, and it only took them until 2024 to do it.
Mhm. And we've been seeing robots and AI potentially getting involved in sports in other categories like baseball umpires. I know they've talked about that. So I think it's just the NFL kind of progressing and doing what's probably best for the players at this point and not as much tradition of what they've always done.
Correct.
So I have one final question to ask before we wrap things up. If there was one piece of advice you could give to an aspiring broadcaster like me, what would it be?
Well, the fact that you're doing this now, Matthew, is great. The more practice you engage in, the more you do these things, the better off you'll get. I would tell you to make sure that you read every day, read 30 minutes. I know we're on our phones a lot, but it's important to read books 30 minutes every day. Uh, how old are you, Matthew? About 14 years old, I'm going to guess?
I am 13 right now.
13. Okay. So, again, you got time to worry about it. But if I were you and I were 13, I'd be reading as many books as I can. I'd be broadcasting as much as I can. I'd be getting as much practice as I can, and just have fun along the way.
Mhm. Thank you so much. With that being said, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to say to the people watching before we wrap things up?
Matthew, I appreciate you having me today, and I wish you the very best of luck in your broadcasting career.
Of course, you too. Keep up the great work. Again, big thanks to Adam Schefter for being the fourth ever Highlight Haven guest, and we'll see you next time.